up. Now, this is, like I said, people don't think about it as much, but there are a lot of things that it makes sense to sort of look at as you get to the end of the year and the beginning of the year. One of and sort of clean stuff up, simplify is always useful. If you can simplify your life, you'd be amazed at how much that helps your reduction of stress in general, joy. One of them, the obvious ones, I guess, is maybe there's some subscriptions or monthly fees or something like that, or things that you're sending money out to that you need to stop. Maybe you like, for example, maybe you moved in the last year and there was a gym that was, that's now an hour away that you have, you've got a membership to and you don't need to anymore. Maybe you want to, just get a membership at a closer gym. Or maybe you've realized in the COVID stuff, you weren't able to go to your gym. And now you've got other ways that you set yourself up to exercise differently. And so you don't need that membership. Maybe there's a certain, for example, let's say we're changing our dietary stuff. Maybe I had some sort of a coffee of the month club or something at my local Starbucks or Panera or one of those kind of places where you subscribed or spent money to some sort of a membership where you got discounts on your meals or things like that you don't use. And maybe you have an Amazon Prime membership and you haven't used Amazon in a year. Things like that. Maybe those are some tools or services that you used in the past that it's time to stop them. It's a classic for IT related people, are there backups that you need to take? Is there work that you've done in the last year that is not properly backed up? Do you need to maybe have a safety deposit box or something like that? Do you need off-site storage of certain certificates or backups of them? Are there photocopies you need to make? Are there pictures you need to take? Things like that. This is a good time to do it. And you've got this time to say, oh yeah, I've got a little bit of time that's my own, and here's something I need to make sure that I have secured or backed up. Are there some tasks that you started this year that in this last little run that it makes sense to just go ahead and bite the bullet and finish them, as opposed to them dragging into the year ahead? There's sometimes we have things that feel like they are always 80 or 90% complete. Maybe now's the time to say, all right, I'm going to just knuckle down and complete this thing so I can check it off my list for good, get it out of my hair. It may be that, and maybe there's that room that you need to paint that you got halfway started and it's been half painted for the last year. And so let's go ahead and I'm just going to get it done. And then I can, clean up and be done with it. What about your schedule? I think that's a good thing to look at are there regular recurring things that you do that it makes sense to stop doing that? Maybe you meet with a certain person every week and that's been rescheduled 15 different times. And so, well, let's just take it off the schedule and punt. Maybe it's too full. Maybe you look at it and you're just exhausted at the end of every day or at the end of every week. And maybe there's some things that you need to examine with a little more critical eye and drop out of your schedule. Simplify things. Maybe it's so that same thought is maybe there's things that you need to stop or contribute less time to. Maybe there's, let's say, for example, maybe you've been doing a blog for the last year and you were spending 2 hours a day, 5 days a week on it. And it's just too exhausting. So maybe instead of, because maybe you were putting out a blog post every day, Monday through Friday, and now you say, you know what, I can do what I need to do. I can accomplish by turning out maybe one blog a week instead of 5, and reduce that 2 hours a day to 2 hours once a week, something like that. Maybe there's something, and it may just be that it wasn't as profitable or rewarding as you thought it was going to be. So stop or do it less so that it fits your needs better. All of these are cleanup kind of things, assessing where we're at and what is on our plate. And maybe there's some things we need to take off of our plate. A couple of years ago, I don't think it was last year, it was 2 or 3 years ago, we had this thing we had a presentation and introduced the Spark idea, which is getting started into your next year as far as resolutions are concerned and goals and things like that. And I wanted to just come back and revisit that because it's a good time to just think about it. Spark was one of those nice little words to try to get us going. And the S there is setting stuff, setting the table, set immediate, short, and long-term goals. As we're getting into this next year, as we go into January, we have New Year's resolutions, which are usually annual things we want to do. Well, instead of having these big hairy goals that we have, break them down into something that is more bite-sized chunk. So have something that is, a goal that you're going to reach. You can reach today or tomorrow for, essentially immediately. And then maybe some short-term stuff. What is something I'm going to try to chain together some of these immediate goals and accomplish something at the end of the month or the end of the week even. And then what are the long-term goals? If I do these things, where should I be a month from now, a quarter from now, 2 quarters from now, halfway through the year or at the end of next year? And then with those, put the plan together. That's your P. I'm going to plan. I'm going to find out where I need to schedule these things. What do I need to do to get things in motion to try to achieve those immediate, short, and long-term goals? And then with that, what now we want to avoid is I've got my plan in place. I need to avoid scope creep. I need to stick to my plan and not grow it and change it in a way that maybe will make it less likely to succeed. And then looking ahead, the R is remove. I want to remove any obstacles. What are things that will block me from getting that done? For example, the accountability thing. Maybe I get my own way. So I need to involve some other people to poke me on a regular basis and provide that accountability so that I keep moving forward. Or maybe there's other tasks that distract me on a regular basis that I need to stop or address those first so they are a non-issue. And then the K is keep your focus, which should, going back to the S, if you have immediate short-term goals, so you have these things that are on your radar on a regular basis, hopefully those allow you to keep focused and keep moving forward, and particularly if you're avoiding scope creep. But that's key, is get into that rhythm and get that momentum built, and then allow it to have some weight essentially and some heft that keeps you moving forward, and so that you're continuing on those immediate, short, and long-term goals that you're meeting and maybe even exceeding them. So what did we learn in this little presentation? As we look at the year that's gone by and we look at what our goals are, I think all of us are going to see that there is plenty of work we can do. We are not done becoming better developers and even more so better people, where we need to be or where we want to be, what we want to accomplish in life. Along with this, life is more than work. It's not just business and career. There's health, there are relationships, there's financial stuff, there's all these other things that bring us quality of life and bring us enjoyment and keep us healthy and keep us from just burning ourselves out. And when we're looking at these kind of times, it's important to realize that preparing can make life much, much easier. It is just so difficult at times to do things at the last minute. I don't know how many times where it's, you wait to the last minute, it's like, oh, I've got to get A, B, and C done. And you don't realize until you start doing those that, oh, by the way, there's this other thing. Now there's D that also has to be done. And gosh, I could have gotten that done a week ago if I just thought about it. So planning and preparing for some of those big things, assessing them a little bit beforehand, looking at what needs to be done, sometimes can allow us to get things done much easier and may even be the difference between success and failure. And then the other thing is, through these items, take some advantages of timing and planning so that maybe we can save the time invested in something, or the pain and stress involved, or the actual financial cost. Maybe timing can sometimes be very big. If you buy at the right time or if you invest at the right time, the value that you get out of that is much greater because the related costs are less. For example, during these downtimes, if you've got free time where you could be, rewatching, Friends episodes, or be doing something that doesn't cause you stress, but does save time in the future, then, maybe you didn't need to see the Friends episode for the 8th time in a row. There's some of those kinds of things to think about and use those to, properly position yourself to be successful in the days, weeks, and the year ahead. Questions and comments?
Probably my question will be like, how do you manage, like, let me say, when procrastination kicks into your head, whereby you're trying to put off something and maybe there is something more important, like how do you balance this out? Like with, let me targets and goals and maybe something that is needed, like in your own business?
A lot of it comes down to the priorities. Is making sure, and it's because this is where that planning and scheduling helps. As you look at stuff and say, okay, if I've got these goals, and looking at them, I'm going to say this, if I've got these 5 goals, well, maybe this one goal is much more important, so I'm going to have a higher priority for it than these other goals. And then it's basically, it's a top-down approach. So I can take those, let's say I've got 5 goals, go to the number 1 priority and look at what's required for it, schedule things out. And then I go to the second one, and then what's required and schedule things out. If I get to a point where my schedule is too full before I get to those items, then I'm going to have to make some adjustments. Otherwise, let's say I can schedule all those things in. Then the key is to be able to maintain those. And also, if something comes up that's an emergency, is I sort of go in reverse order. So, if I have to drop something off, or it has to stop on my schedule this week because I had car repairs to do, or life happened, then I go to the less priority stuff and say, okay, well, that's the thing that I'm going to essentially, use the time I was going to work on that 5th priority thing. Instead, that time is going to this emergency. Or maybe it's, the top or the bottom 3 priority items. I'm not going to get to those this week. But keeping that focus or that list of, here are the things that I need, here are the things that I want, and here are things that are nice to have, and being able to sort of schedule those in and be in a position that I have taken some of the first steps and laid the groundwork to get those things done, usually will allow me to, it gives me some buffer, basically, is built in, so that when things happen that are distractions or take away from those things that I really want to get done, at least I've got some buffer that can help absorb that and allow me to continue momentum, even with all that life has to throw at me, so that I've got it planned out already in ways that I can keep things moving forward. They have momentum. So I don't end up in a situation where a couple things occur. Now I have to stop something dead in its tracks. And I come back, a few days later or a week later or whatever it is, and have to restart and get that momentum going forward. Instead, I've been able to carry it forward all the way through, and maybe not at the rate that I wanted to. Maybe I wanted to give an hour a day to my number 1 priority. But because of how things worked out, I was only able to give 15 minutes a day for the last month on that. That's okay, because I'm not as far along as I want to be, but at least I was continuing to keep that ball moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So do you like sometimes, okay, let me base this on IT. Like, do you sometimes, like, let me say, you're working on something which is very important, and then a production issue crops up. Do you, okay, production issue, for instance, it will be an emergency. So you finish up that, whereby, let me say you had scheduled, let me say 8 hours to work today. Do you like sometimes have to work like extra, whereby you kind of lose, the sight of whatever you were supposed to stick to in the day?
Yeah, sometimes it does. That's why, for me, the higher priority things, typically I'm going to tackle first, or the things that, well, it's a combination. The things that are higher priority that I really want to make some sort of progress on them, I'm more likely to do those early in the day before things possibly could go wrong. And also, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing those on a regular basis enough so that if I have a day where I have to cut it short or not get to it at all, at least I did it yesterday and I'll work on it again tomorrow. If if I've had this emergency that comes up, and that may shift my priorities a little bit. So maybe there's something that I'm going to do an hour a day on it. And I lost in the last week, I had production issues and wasn't able to get to it. So maybe when I come back, maybe I will spend a little time over the weekend, but maybe when I come back Monday, instead, I'm gonna focus in the week ahead to do 2 or 3 hours a day on it for a couple of days to essentially catch up or to give some of that time back. And it may be that's not feasible, so it may be that I just have to go back to my 1 hour a day. But at least I was working on that along the way, up until this week where I had production issues. And I'll start back next week. And yeah, it's a little bit of an adjustment, but at least again, I've been making that steady progress so that and hopefully I've built some buffer in so that really I could have gotten where I needed to be on 45 minutes a day instead of an hour a day. I had a little more built in, so I was ahead of the game. And it is basically again, it's one of those things, it's an accountability thing, so that once you get burned by production issues enough, you make some adjustments. So you say, all right, I'm going to get further ahead on this. I'm not going to allow it to wait to the last minute, because that's usually when you struggle. Is you wait to the last minute, and that's inevitably when you also have some other unforeseen emergency occur, and now you're really in trouble. If you're aiming to get something done by December 31st, you want it done by December 31st, and instead you aim to get it done by October 15th, then you've built in to your schedule that, hey, I can have some setbacks and still be on track. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add. So one of the things you were talking about, declutter, things of that nature. I find it's helpful at the end of the year to take a look around my office and find like all the scraps of paper, notes, things like I have, and organize all that into like one place. That way I'm not so scattered going into the next year, forgetting things. I mean, it's good to do like, on a weekly, maybe daily basis, but it's usually good at the end of the year to just kind of take stock with everything you've got around you, what's in your environment, just kind of organize it a little bit too.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And it's one I really didn't touch on, is that a lot of times it makes sense to sort of, as you go into the new year, particularly if you take like we do a lot of times, you take a week or two off. So you have sort of a hard divider between this year and next year, where it can be a great time to say, all right, I'm going to take all of my notes or my documents from the last year and put them into like in this case, a 2021 folder. And now I'm going to be in position. So I don't have all of that stuff. I have last year's stuff, and I'll have, this year's stuff. I do that, for example, with Developreneur. Usually as I get into the end of the year, as I get the last couple of things in, I'll take our latest recordings and create a folder for, like right in this example, I'll create a 2021 folder, and I'll push all of our recordings in the last year into the 2021 folder and sort of simplify that main folder. So now it won't have anything in it until we start doing the 2022 presentations, and do that stuff for weekly status, filing. Like I said, there may be notes that it just makes sense that I've got all of these work notes that I've got a folder that I put them in, and I say, hey, here's the 2021 notes. So I start with a little bit of a sort of like a clean slate moving forward. So that's an excellent point to make, is that those are little things that we can do that may help us simplify and be more organized as we start the year ahead. It just gives us a little more opportunity to start on the right foot. So great point. All right. So as always, I want to thank you for the time, for listening, for reviewing this. If you have any other questions or anything like that, you can always reach us at info@developreneur.com through email. We have a contact us form on developreneur.com. out on Twitter. You can get us at Developerpreneur. You can see what's going on there. We have our YouTube channel. There's a link in the show notes. Or you can go out to YouTube. If you search Developerpreneur, you will find it. You just have to make sure you spell it right without, it's the DEVELPRENEUR, and you'll find it out there. We've got multiple channels. We've got now, I think we're 2 years into stuff. So we've probably got 100, maybe 200 little 15 to 25 minute typically things out there covering a wide range of topics, including this year we did React Native, Python certification. Got a lot of good stuff that's starting to build up there. You can find you can find sliced up versions of mentor presentations out there. You can also find the full version of them if you want. The typically 1 hour presentation you find out on Vimeo. We've got a Developerpreneur channel there, and we do still have a Developerpreneur Facebook page that we get stuff posted to from time to time. If you want to contact us there, as always. We're just continuing, we've got another year down of trying to make every developer better, and we're going to keep working on building better developers in the year ahead. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.